just been connected to the largest spiritual network on the planet, The Jeffrey Daugherty Show. Jeffrey Daugherty. Sink or swim, deep end information, parabiblical research, spiritual technologies, personal empowerment. Be your own guru. Guide your own spirit. Master your own ascension. And now, showing you how, here's Jeffrey Daugherty.
Well, hello, folks. Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, back with you. It's the Jeffrey Daugherty Show. Today, we're talking more about paganism, magic, and witchcraft. And the more I look into this subject, the more fascinating it becomes. I also encourage you to take a look at my website and see how I did with my time travel NFL picks this week. I picked 14 games against the point spread, 12 of them correctly, 2 of them incorrectly. I had a guy get all over me on Twitter. Well, if you're going to the future, then how come you could possibly make a mistake? How come you don't know 100% for certain? Well, sir, I really shouldn't even have to explain this, but when you're talking about the timeline, it is fluid, it is not set, things can happen, things can change. I made my picks Saturday by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and what the timeline looked like at that point could very well be different by the time the games are actually played on Sunday. But come on, bro. 12 out of 14 correct. Nobody does that. It's obvious I'm tapping into something that is real, it's legitimate, and the reason I do it, number 1, it's fun. Number 2, it's interesting. Number 3, I'm hoping that as I continue to go through this NFL season hitting such incredible numbers by a remote viewing time travel technique, that some of you knuckleheads are going to say, well, you know what? Maybe I ought to take a look at the other things this guy says. And some of you that aren't knuckleheads but still have a hard time believing some of the things I say might give a little bit of credence to it because, you know what? This guy's figured something out here that's rather remarkable. So maybe we ought to at least give him ear to listen and to contemplate what he's saying. Because what I'm saying, folks, is designed to set you free. It's designed to let you know the fix has been in for 2,000 years. We've been living beneath our birthright and our heritage, and it's high time to stop it. And it's going to be stopped, and it's going to be changed. The only question is, are you going to come along for the ride? Because the time is fast approaching when the 100th monkey is going to make his appearance. If you don't know what the 100th monkey is, look it up. It'll enlighten you. And once that 100th monkey comes, bam! We're going to go in a mass ascension. We'll be changed into another realm, another frequency, another what's the word I'm looking for? Dimension, if you will. And if you're not ready, you're not ready. So what's going to happen? Well, I don't really know, but the thing is, get ready, be ready. And I mean, the worst thing that can happen is you die in this life, and you get a chance to come around and correct it. But everything I talk about is so important, and it's about making this life better. It's about making sure you don't wind up in a soul farm being raised for your fear and energy after this life until you figure it out. I mean, folks, this stuff is real, and it's real important, so listen up. And today we're talking about paganism, magic, and witchcraft. And we learned on our last show that even though Christianity wants us to believe that pagan is somebody that drinks blood and sacrifices their kids and, walks around with feathers on and, bones around their neck and through their nose. They want us to have this bad impression and idea of what a pagan is. But I remind you of the Webster's Dictionary definition of a pagan. A pagan is, folks, are you ready for this? A pagan is a person that has a different religious belief than the dominant religious belief of that area or time. If you're a Christian and you go to Thailand, guess what? You're the pagan. Pagan just means you don't believe what everybody else believes. Pagan just believes you don't believe what you're told to believe. Pagan says you are not a member of the dominant religious group of that area or time. That's exactly what a pagan means. And it's obvious why Christianity wants to paint pagans in such a bad light, because they don't want people getting off the program. They don't want people leaving the reservation. They want people enslaved, entrapped, and producing in their control matrix. So that's what a pagan is. A pagan is somebody that doesn't believe in the dominant religious paradigm. That's it. Now, what about magic or witchcraft? Let's talk about magic. Magic is simply the use of what appears to be supernatural forces to influence activities or events in the world. Now, the only reason that magic seems supernatural and not able to be understood is because you're ignorant of it. Jesus used magic all the time. You use magic all the time. All magic really is directed intention. Well, what do you mean, Jeff? I mean that magic really is as simple as what Jesus talked about when he said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. As you think is how you become. If you think I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be all right, then you're going to be successful and you're going to be all right. It's not that you just say it over and over again, but once you begin to program your intention, it begins to put out the energy, which begins to attract the things that are conducive to that belief, and it also begins to repel things that are not conducive to that belief. So Jesus used magic a lot. And Jesus said that we would do even greater things than he did, and we should be using magic a lot. Law of attraction is magic. It really should be called the law of intention, because it just means your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas, and the focusing and the projection of those thoughts, ideas, are witchcraft. That's why black magic is when you use your intention to override somebody else's intention. Like if I decided that I wanted Taylor Swift to fall in love with me. I don't know why I picked her name. Saw her on the news this morning. On the internet, I don't watch TV. And if I decided I want Taylor Swift to fall in love with me, and I started focusing my intention on Taylor Swift, or anybody, and made her fall in love with me by overriding her own intention. Her intention wouldn't be to fall in love with me. She hasn't met me. But I could use the power of my intention, love spells, that's what we're talking about, to cause someone to fall in love with me. That's black magic, because I'm overriding the power of their intention. But Christianity is built on black magic. Christianity's purpose is to override your intention. And if you don't believe me, then believe the guy that wrote half the New Testament, the guy that Christianity is based upon. No, not Jesus. His name is Paul. It was Saul of Tarsus. And he talks about in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse number 5. Here I am back to preaching Paul again. Paul's talking about the weapons. He's talking about the enemies that Christians fight, and he says one of the enemies that they fight. Let's just read the verse. I'm in the Greek. Let's see if I can find it just written in the plain English, so I don't get you all tripped up by the Greek rendering. Let me just go real quickly to my Bible, and we'll read 2 Corinthians chapter 10. There's 1 Corinthians. See, I could still win one of those Bible races. 2 Corinthians 10, verse number 5. Here's Paul, and he says, For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Man, those words in my Bible have shrunk. They used to be bigger. I don't know what happened. It must have got exposed to light or something, and they shrunk. But Paul's talking about our enemies. Paul's talking about the things that we fight against if we're Christians. He's talking about strongholds. He's talking about things that are against us. And the first thing he talks about is casting down imaginations. We got to cast down those imaginations, because those imaginations, they're bad. Folks, you're not going to believe when I tell you what the imaginations are. The things that Paul said he wants us to cast down are the imaginations. The word would have been more correctly rendered arguments, but what the word really means, you're not going to believe this, but what the word really means in its original Greek is reasoning, thinking. Reasoning, thinking, according to Help's word studies, that reflects someone's values, how they personally assign weight in determining what they find reasonable. It also emphasizes reaching a personal opinion, that which comes out of a personal reckoning. Folks, are you getting this? This is Christianity. This is what you've been following all your life. This is what you fight about and yell at me about and scream at me about and write me scathing emails, sometimes full of cuss words, which I think is funny coming from the Christians. But Paul said, you have to pull down arguments. You have to pull down reasonings, cast down imaginations. And what he's saying is, we want you to pull down your own reasoning. We want you to cast down your own thinking. We want you to cast down your own understanding. We don't want you thinking on your own. We don't want you reasoning according to your own values. We don't want you personally determining what you find reasonable. We don't want you engaging in a personal reckoning. Folks, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse number 5. All you have to do is read it with me. Go on to a Greek interlinear, and it'll tell you these things that I'm telling you. Paul wants us to stop thinking on our own, to stop reasoning on our own, to stop weighing out things according to our personal workings of our mind. And this is why I left the Christian ministry after 20 years, because the whole time I was thinking for myself, I was saying, you know what, this doesn't make sense. And finally I got to the point where I had enough guts to leave. But can you see this, folks? In order to be a Christian, in order to stay a Christian, you have to check your mind at the door. The Apostle Paul is telling you that it's actually the demolition of arguments. That word demolition means to take down, destroy, or raise. So what he's telling you is that you need to take down, destroy, and raise your own reasoning, your own thinking, the reasoning that reflects your values. You have to take down the way you personally assign weight in determining what you find reasonable. You have to put down your personal opinions. You have to put down your personal thought and thinking and reasoning. Are you really willing to do that? If you are, I can't really help you. If you are willing to stop thinking for yourself, then there's really nothing else that Jeffrey Daugherty can do for you. But if this makes you mad, if you don't believe I'm right, get into the language and study it. If you think I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong, but don't just write me and say, you're a sinner, you need to repent. You're wrong. My dad could beat up your dad. Don't send me those kind of emails, those kind of comments on my YouTube. I delete them because they're stupid. If you say, I believe you're wrong because of this or because of that, and give me an actual argument, then I'll leave it up and we can talk about it. But folks, magic is what they equate to you thinking for yourself. And Paul said it needs to be destroyed. It needs to be decimated. It needs to be cast down. Your thoughts, your personal, rational reasoning. I'll be back tomorrow to talk more about this. And folks, we're just getting started. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. And until next time, I'm wishing you peace and light.
Stay connected with the largest spiritual network on the planet, www.imnck.com. On Facebook, Jeffrey Daugherty and Jeffrey Daugherty Show. And on Twitter at NCKabbalah. Visit imnck.com today and learn how to create yourself and live the life you'll love.